Our first panel session, a new financial landscape simplifying customer experience with digital onboarding. That is the topic of the first presentation of this two-day summit. And we have a plethora of panel experts with us who are going to discuss on this fantastic subject matter for the next 50 minutes. Before I call on the esteemed panel members on stage, few points of discussion I would like to highlight to all of you. The impact of digital onboarding on customer experience, how digital onboarding is making the process more efficient and user-friendly. Positive onboarding experience results in increased customer loyalty and repeat business, and many more. So without taking further time, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome with a big round of applause our first panel and the eminent panel members. Joining us first on the stage, Mr. M.A.Kishen Kumar, Group CTO from Ask Group. Can we have a big round of applause for Mr. Kumar? Welcome to the panel, sir. Please have your seat. Joining next in the panel, we have Mr. Prasad Ajinkya, Director IT from Homeville Group. A big round of applause to Mr. Ajinkya. Welcome to the panel. Please have your seat. Joining next in the panel, we have Mr. Sandeep Bhosle, Chief Digital Officer, Business Development from JM Financial Asset Management. A big round of applause to Mr. Bhosle. Welcome to the panel, sir. Please have your seat. Joining next in the panel, we have Mr. Sudesh Puthran, CTO from CreditAccess Grameen. A big round of applause to Mr. Puthran. Welcome to the panel, sir. Please have your seat. Joining next in the panel, we have Mr. Sandeep Ranjan, CDO from Shriram Housing Finance. A big round of applause to Sandeep ji. Welcome to the panel. Please have your seat, sir. And now I would like to call on the honorable moderator for this panel, Mr. Nikhil Bandi, Group Chief Technology and Digital and Operation Officer from APAC Financial Services. A big round of applause to Mr. Bandi. Mr. Bandi, welcome to the panel. Please have your seat. So, start of the day with a fantastic panel. All over to you, Mr. Bandi. Looking forward to a great session.
A warm good morning to all of you. This a little rainy day in Mumbai, and I think one of the wonderful things which we do is start our morning with something as interesting as discussion around with the panel of eminent speakers here on the first and the most important thing in the space of lending or financial institutions. What they are looking at is acquisition of customers. And we have, as a industry, evolved ourselves from the times where an individual had to open his bank account and had to wait for possibly hours in a queue to take the form, apply for it, and then wait for a bank account to open, as against today, where you just click or accept something on your mobile phone, which is registered and connected with your Aadhaar, and you get your account opened by just clicking a few steps. So I think, once again, good morning to all of you. I would like to take this opportunity first to introduce myself. I manage technology for a company called APAC Financial Services, which is into micro enterprise lending, focused into micro enterprise lending across the tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities. And we do call ourselves a tech-first platform and tech-first lending institution. The good thing which I would be hearing today from the eminent speakers here is gathering more and more insights on how the customer experience gets enriched in the first leg for any financial institution, which is the onboarding of a customer or moving a lead from a lead to a prospect to a customer. So first of all, I would like to ask a question to our panel member, Mr. Sudesh. Sudesh, if you can help all of us understand that how the customer experience which we are seeing today, how this journey of digital onboarding helping us to get the customer experience get enriched further, get the right kind of stickiness of customers. Your views around that would be appreciated. And how your organization has taken its steps to to further go into this journey.
Good morning, all of you, and thank you, Cinex, for getting me here. So my name is Sudesh Puthran. I am the CTO of one of the largest microfinance NBFC CreditAccess Grameen. As a microfinance business, this business is all about scale. And typically, in a day, we enroll 15 to 16,000 members a day, and probably onboard almost 10 to 12,000. So it's a huge volume business, and scale is the essence for business success. So primarily, manual doesn't work. It's an enemy of scale. So digitization is something that we had, it's a core DNA for us to grow the business. So basically, the entire digital onboarding that we have today, earlier it used to be taking almost 12 to 14 days, and now we are less than 3-4 days as such. But in a microfinance business, you need to understand it's like a joint liability group. So you need to first create the group, then onboard the members and connect to the group. So, and it's a complete process, which means basically doing the KYC, working with fintechs to automate KYC, then work with the rule engine and the credit bureau providers to do the credit decisioning, which typically happens in less than a few hours. And then as a process, since we work in rural India, it's also mean connecting with the customer physically, understanding his needs, doing a proper income assessment, and then onboarding him into the team. So the entire process, which used to take previously 14-15 days, is now through digitization, which is a very essential part of our DNA, because without that, we can't scale. So we, as I said, we onboard almost 10 to 15,000 customers a day. That's the scale in which we operate. We process almost 80 to 90,000 loans a day. So that's the scale again. So digitization is core to our business. And working with fintechs for automating most of the process is very important. So this not only basically improves stats, but also, reduces a lot of human errors. Because in rural India, the challenge is, vernacular is a critical part. Communication becomes a very big challenge. So how can you work with technology and digitization to pre-fill a lot of information? So that data entry is not an issue. And secondly, how do you connect in vernacular with your customer to improve the whole experience? Because it's very important to not intimidate your customer, right? How to make the entire journey simplified. And most importantly, the persona of the rural India is very different. Very sincere, honest borrower. So it's up to a credit lender like us who makes him a good borrower or a bad borrower. So making sure that you don't force him to over-leverage himself and become a bad borrower, So assessing his income needs, understanding where he's coming from, what is his real requirement, and positioning the right product is also very, very critical. So from a customer experience, that really helps, because you need to basically step into his shoes to understand what his business is and where he needs. So digitization is a very critical part for our scaling of business, at least for microfinance.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sudesh. I think what I picked from here is when you want to do onboarding in a industry like yours, there is mass you need to connect with, and it has to be a simple onboarding solution. 15,000 customers, 80,000 loans is something you can't wait for a customer to understand how to fill an application, or it has to be as simple and intuitive as a process. So let me move to Sandeep from JM Financials. I think one of the absolute other side of it, where Sandeep would deal with select niche customers, and the onboarding experience, while on this side is going to be as simple when you think of CreditAccess Grameen. On the other side, in JM Financials, it's going to be very pointed. Everything has to be thought through very well. And so what I want to understand, Sandeep, from you is how you have taken this journey so that the customers appreciate as well as become sticky to your organization.
Thanks, Nikhil. First of all, thanks, Cinexcom. My sincere compliments to you. Every year, you people become really bigger. And thanks for all of you for attending us and giving us this opportunity. Yeah. As Nikhil pointed out, digital onboarding obviously has been, is becoming the key. Somewhere, basically, if you see over a period, will just give a background, in fact, of a generic about all financial companies, how they look at digital onboarding. It has obviously come a long way, but it has fastened up in the last 6-7 years of period. And obviously this leap has been taken by more from all financial companies only. And the primary reason also being because financial companies will be normally custodians of customers' data. Basically, so there's a lot of data these companies will always have. Unlike a manufacturing company or any other distribution company, where the dependency is basically is on the field forces, on the distribution houses together. So when this data and the numbers are in place, basically it's normally convenient to make digital onboarding a simplifying process. Believe me, still, in fact, basically, the aspiration of a customer, of any finance company as a consumer, is still a one-click place. I just want to click and just my onboarding happens. Obviously, there are compliance norms and number of norms, but still there is an aspiration of that. The customer also has come, the consumers also have come a long way around, right from signing up the forms, in fact. And believe me, in fact, that was not the right part, but still people used to believe that one signature was fine. People used to land up at someone's home and tell them, sign here, sign here, sign here, and your onboarding has been done. And you get your welcome kit in a courier at some point of time. Today, that process, most of has graduated to a DIY process, do-it-yourself process. It's a DIY process. It will take some minutes, it will take some seconds for some companies. But it has become so prominent across the industry that it is literally taking the limelight out of the product, basically, out of your core product. Or the previous years, in fact, if you see, the core product was the selling point. Today, the core product plus your onboarding is your offering. If I just distinguish in percentage, it can be 50-50%, in fact, basically. Because at some point of time, competition democratizes all product, and then the experience is basically which is making the difference. As I said earlier, financial companies normally have taken the leap in this because we are the custodians. We have n number of data, and so we can really put systems in place. So here this place that digital onboarding still as an aspiration for a customer is to have a one-click investment. And it still remains a DIY process, in fact. It has fastened up, and it really fastened up. You can open up accounts in the next around 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes, if all your documentations and everything are clear. And the most important thing is that whenever a digital onboarding happens, the customer or the consumer leaves a lot of digital footprint, which organizations do capture, and which they are trying to make it the experience of the customer in the coming years, or the journey with them, or simplify, or give some good personalization around with them. The second part, the most important part, what digital onboarding has done across the industry, it has taken a lot of compliance care. A lot of compliance care. The right data has been input. It is coming directly from the customers and going in the system. So the errors of having wrong email IDs, wrong phone numbers, or data cleaning up, that's certainly gone up. So when you have a DIY process or a digital onboarding process, you capture the right amount of data. When you capture the right amount of data, it's very easily back to communicate with the customers back. And the customer is also, again, happy in that. But still, it's still a point, in fact, where customers still need a seamless or maybe a shorter version, and that will never stop. That will never stop. The customers or the age group today, what we have never seen a form to be signed up and open up an account in a financial product. They have born and bought up with a digital onboarding process, and then expectations will be completely different, basically. And there will be competition in between this. The third part is basically digital onboarding has literally broken the boundaries. Everyone is able to keep their shop open 24/7, service 24/7. There are no boundaries, there are no regions. regions. You can expand. You can set in one corner of office and literally operate pan-India process. More like physical branches are more from a brand perspective rather than from a reach perspective. So there are certain things where it has taken. The most important thing is basically digital onboarding will be a core part of the product. It will be just not an added service along with it. So that's my point. I will rest. We'll take it ahead on that.
Sure. Thank you, Sandeep. I think one of the point which you picked up was very interesting. The generation which is millennials, they would be moving, and so they are they came like they were born with a mobile phone in their hands, and they would certainly expect this is the process. An onboarding process doesn't require a pen, paper registration, and certainly it's going to be a digital few click process which has its own compliances attached to it. Thanks, Sandeep. I would like to get views from Kishen from ASK Group. And the views which I would want to get from you, Kishen, is that when we see a positive experience of a customer when we onboard them digitally, have we seen a reflection in the stickiness of customer, loyalty of customer, repeat business, and on the vice versa, if there is a negative experience, we see that that customer or their contacts will not be trying the same organization, registering or onboarding on the same organization. Your views on this?
In my view, the customer experience is like a double-edged sword. It's
Kishen, I would appreciate if you can introduce yourself.
My name is Kishen Kumar, and I'm the Group CTO for ASK Asset and Wealth Advisors. That's my role and position, and that's what I work on a day-to-day basis. So in my view, if you look at it from an overall position, the customer experience, as I said, is a double-edged sword. It works both ways. Now, when you look at customer experience, you got to look at one from a customer point of view, and second from an internal customer point of view. The internal customer is our back office operations and people who actually do the work. So once you start building these kind of customer experiences, you really need to understand how you are going to look at both the areas. And unless there is a seamless integration between the front office and back office, the entire customer experience will fail. So if you look at the overall perspective, when you say the customer and you say customer experience, the first thing is from a front-end point of view. How many clicks? How quickly can I complete the form? What kind of features are there? What can I do? Because I'm in a hurry. I'm not there to spend a lot of time unless you make the site interesting. So that is when the whole concept of gamification, which started almost about a decade back, on how you create gamification and you create these kind of interest for the customers on the front end. That's a very important area which looks at it from that perspective. From a back-end perspective, it's very important that the operations have all the data, and they too with a few clicks, because they need not go through 15 points of data entry, 20 points of verification, scanning through multiple screens, then going ahead with the approval. How quickly can that workflow and that experience which is there on the front end be translated into the back end? That's something which is very important. So once you do both these things, then the experience to the customer is wonderful. Because the moment a customer inputs data, besides his transaction data, which anyway will be available from the core system, but if he has some request, how quickly can that be responded to? If he has any query, how quickly can that be addressed? And at the same time, how can you engage him on the site with more things, with more products? Or can you do a cross-sell or an upsell or whatever you want to do on that kind of this thing with the customer? And engage him with you and your company and your products is something which is very important. And I think a good customer experience is something which, if a customer is able to do a few things in a couple of clicks, the probability that he will come back to your website is much higher. The fact that he will go into a third-party site and then start looking at things is much lower. And that is an advantage where you can build stickiness too, especially when you are into an advisory business, or when you are talking of wealth business, or you're talking of investments, or let's take simple examples of mutual funds itself. The moment you go into a website and you just put your PAN and date of birth, everything gets pre-populated, and you just put your bank details and penny pay done and everything done, and CAMS takes over it. Life is simple, right? So that's the kind of an experience which makes customer say, okay, last time I did it in 3 minutes, why not I go and look at it again? So that's something which I think is a very important aspect. And I still emphasize on the point that when you look at customer experience, it's just not the front end. It's an entire process, breaking the silos within the organization to enable a seamless flow of transaction, data, documents, whatever it is, across the organization that helps customer experience. And that's what will give you the stickiness, and that's what will give you all the other things. And probably the next level of gamification on portals is on that aspect. Thank you.
Thank you, Kishen. I think these are the views which certainly reflects as to why right kind of digital onboarding has to be promoted the entire industry, not specific companies or specific verticals. So the positives which we have heard, a lot of positives in terms of why the digital onboarding and how digital onboarding is impacting the industry, financial services industry. So we have the Chief Digital Officer for Shriram Housing Finance with us, Mr. Sandeep. While Sandeep, because you are Chief Digital Officer, the first thing is that you are going to get into digital onboarding for everyone. But for you, I just want to ask the difficult side of it, where there's always a debate that when we do digital onboarding, is it going to be more secured or less secured? Are there going to be more frauds or less frauds? So your views as to if we go through this journey, which is so inevitable for organizations, what are your views on the security and the protection from fraud from the view of a physical onboarding which used to happen earlier versus a digital onboarding?
Thank you. Hi, thank you and good morning everybody. I am Sandeep Ranjan. I'm the Chief Digital Officer for Shriram Housing Finance. On the question that Nikhil just asked on security and frauds and how digital onboarding essentially helps us either prevent or reduce the fraud, right? Fraud is one aspect. I think it's like a cat and mouse game. The more secure your systems are, the fraudsters will try and catch up with you. But what has happened in the whole onboarding process in the last 5-7 years and 10 years in that time frame is a lot of these integrations are now available from the government, from partners, from financial integrators, which help us kind of minimize the fraud. For example, one of the biggest fraud on the lending side used to be impersonation, and it continues still on that side, right? Impersonation is where somebody else kind of comes and says, I am so-and-so and give me the loan. And you would just check the documents, PAN card, etc. All that may be fudged or can be wrongly procured. What has happened of late is, for example, the speaker was just mentioning that you just enter your PAN number, all the details will flow in, right? So what is happening is the details, information is getting we are getting these information from a verified sources, and which is when we can rely on this data for carrying out future further processing of the application. So a PAN number, if it comes with a name XYZ, if somebody has given me a document which says something else, you could just block that application at that stage itself, right? Similarly, on the lending side, because most of my experience is on the lending side. On the lending side, there are other stuff as well. For example, bank statements are one of the documents that are manipulated in a big time to increase the, either increase the loan eligibility or for something else, right? Today we have account aggregators through which we are able to pull data directly from the bank account source itself, which is all validated, verified. So that kind of eliminates that risk. we also have integrations which if you upload the PDF document, etc., you will be able to get on a real-time basis whether this document has been fudged or there's any manipulation in the document. Similarly, for example, bank account verification. Bank account verification itself was a big challenge some years back because the bank account may be somebody else's, somebody must have fudged the bank account, etc. Today, we just rely on something as a penny drop and verify the account. So a lot of tools are now available to kind of eliminate or minimize fraud during the onboarding journey, right from documentations and the bank account and eligibility, etc. Right? It's just that how we integrate in our journey is important. How the teams are able to make use of that during the onboarding journey. Onboarding is not one, as he rightly said, onboarding is not only one process. Customer is internal as well as external. How they are able to take use of those tools, integrations, etc., is what defines if the frauds can be minimized, caught, or eliminated. So that's on my fraud side on digital onboarding.
Wonderful. In fact, this particular view may have demystified some of the opinions which people had that when we do a digital onboarding, will it be less secured? I think I 100% agree with you on certain aspects. I've implemented account aggregator platform in my onboarding journey. And what I see today is one is that obviously it reduces the turnaround time, which is the highest interest of the business function. But at the same time, you get the information directly from the source. There is no possibility of a fraudulent bank statement. Similarly, on KYC, earlier, you really need to be sharp to understand if the signature is right or wrong versus the digital authentication takes care of certain aspects. So absolutely right views. I think I can't have any different opinion there. Thanks, Sandeep. And for an organization like yours, which is having, like you process the number of loans you process in a month or a day is so high that it automatically builds efficiency. And I would come to that with you once again because that's an area of your expertise. I thought I'll just first ask the tough questions. Thank you.
Yeah, so process efficiency using digital onboarding. So this is a question that, so I've been in the digital transformation bit for the last 7-8 years now, and this is one area I've had a lot of troubles into with my business teams, okay? Essentially what happens is, and most of us are here from the financial industry, is this phenomena called as month-end phenomena.
Yep.
And that takes away everything that you do on digital onboarding, trust me.
And so, just to interrupt in between, I'm not sure if everybody has noticed that when there's a month-end phenomena mentioned, everybody on the panel was smiling. So I'm sure it is as relevant for everyone around here.
Yeah, so I'll just narrate one example, right? So when my first stint in digital onboarding was where I implemented a tab-based onboarding for a particular company. I don't want to name that. And the first month itself, I got into a huge argument with the business saying that the tab you're showing is all wrong. And we were like, how do I show it? Because during the last 3 days, right, the TAT is 1 day, 0 day. And the first 28 days of the month, it's like 15 days, 10 days, 8 days. It's just not possible to kind of get into that agreement with the businesses team. However, I think we have now evolved. Earlier, when I started this journey and when I was explaining this, we still used to have a lot of application forms manually being filled in, which were actually within the bags of the agents for like 5-7 days, and then on the day of the month end, they used to get punched in the system. From that stage, I think we have moved quite a bit on that front. And today, for example, our company, we do a lot of digital onboarding where we have given tabs to the sales team. They do the data entry with the customer in the field. And that's how we capture all the information in the system itself upfront, right? What it does now is essentially, there's a lot of checks and balances that are available upfront to the sales agent. So for example, the scorecard or the bureau score is available, and he will now know whether this case can be done or not, right? So if in the case it cannot be done, he doesn't need to waste his effort, energies on completing the whole application. Application for a home loan or secured product is a pretty lengthy process. We take a lot of documentation, proofs, etc. So that is one thing that increases efficiency because you don't spend more time on cases that are not doable. Secondly, since if the agent is actually filling up the application in the field itself, and the information flows real time to my core systems because the moment it gets submitted, it goes and flashes across all the departments. So a few checks and balances which are mandatory on the secured side, for example, a PD, a personal discussion or a field verification, all that can be initiated while he's still in the field, not even reached the office, right? And if the checks and balances can be upfronted, these integrations will help with the departments, etc., help us to initiate these processes on a real-time basis. What happens is it builds in a lot of efficiency on the downstream processes, which are able to do their work on almost like a real-time basis. Earlier was to happen, you bring in the application form, somebody used to scan it, send it, do the data entry, do this thing. All that has been now taken away just because we have front-ended it. And what we have done also is we have also integrated with a lot of fintechs and partners where we're doing the form filling upfront so that the data entry error on the front end also decreases. So that's how we've been able to do a lot of efficiency on the digital onboarding journey, and that's how we've been able to benefit on that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sandeep. In fact, the first part, which is building the efficiency, earlier used to be a target of operations function or a business function of organization. Now, improving the TAT and building the efficiency are some of the new KRAs or the chief digital officers and the chief technology officers of the organization. Very well put in. I would like to go to Prasad Ajinkya from Homeville. Prasad, there are many organizations and we have been seeing a lot of technology sponsors here in this Synex. Many of them have created automation platforms. Some of the panel members have their homegrown onboarding and automation platform built in their organization. How do you see these automation platforms are stimulating the customer experience of onboarding and how these can be leveraged further in the years to come?
Sure. So good morning, everyone. My name is Prasad Ajinkya. I am the Director of Technology at Homeville Group. We are a company that makes credit platforms for the housing sector. We also have a subsidiary, NBFC, which participates in these platforms. One of the products that we have is an unsecured product for home buyers. It's a bridge financing product. And one of the things we realized before the lockdown was that getting a lender to agree to an STP would enhance the customer experience a lot. However, a lot of the dependency for the STP is with the customer as well, right? And then most lenders have their own nuances. Sometimes I need a reference, I need an additional document, right? The kind of to and fro that happens for a secured or an unsecured product, right? That is what throws the entire STP out of the way. I'm sure every one of us here has their own straight-through process for underwriting a loan, right? The question that we really need to ask is, what is the percentage of data that flows out of this process? If we see STP as a funnel, then where are the typically you'll see the leaks for your STP? And then what can we do to plug those leaks, right? This is where a good CX platform comes into play. You'll typically want to have 4 separate roles for a CX platform. One would be customer data and segmentation. One would be user journeys, which could be customized. One would be document management and communication. And lastly, it would be CRM as well. And therefore, CX automation lies firmly in the middle between all of these players. I mean, you can have a CDP moving into this space, or you can have a CRM solution also providing these solutions, or you can have a origination layer growing and adding this as a functionality. And this is where it becomes interesting to note what all the 15, 16 projects that I need to kick off on CX automation to automate and increase the ratio of my straight-through processes, right? If I have a certain product which needs additional documents, then can I trigger a mail to the customer saying that, hey, look, these 2 additional documents are remaining. If you can share that and upload it, then immediately we'll underwrite the loan. Usually the flow that tends to happen is ki underwriting team tells the RM, sometimes the RM is waiting on the underwriting team, then the customer chases the RM, then the RM says ki, "Arey sir, ye bhi document chahiye," right? This all seems familiar. But if you want to really automate this, then try to start communicating directly with the customer that, look, there are 2, 3 steps that you need to complete more. Just upload the documents with the link here. And most of the LOSs that have this capability. It's just a matter of crafting these additional, use cases or edge cases in your user journeys so that these gaps can be met. Similarly, additional documentation can also be slowly reduced by access to public data that is now available. Instead of a bank statement, can you go for an AA consent, right? The minute you have a bank statement which seems fraudulent, which is sparked off by your bank statement parser, can you tag it as a red flag application and then take it out of your STP process? All of these are use cases that most of the stalwarts in the lending industry would typically be doing. However, if all of these are available as a templatized solution in a CX platform, that would be super great, right? Similarly, when it comes to customer experience and customer relationship, if I have an existing customer coming back for a loan application, can I quickly create a dynamic offer and close the customer then and there itself? Why does the KYC have to be done again if it's a recent customer? Right? So things of all of these effectively help in making a good CX platform really drive the business instead of just being a glorified CRM.
Wonderful. Prasad, so on this particular point, when you were talking about multiple documents resubmitting, and then just a quick follow-up question on since this digital KYC, we have always been seeing this video KYC being there in the market for a while. How do you see this video KYC is going to transform the overall digital onboarding experience? Positive way, negative way? What are your comments?
So, digital KYC is also interesting because we have different panelists, it's not just lenders, right? And they have slightly different nuances for video KYC as well. I remember when we got our license, that was in 2019 I was mentioning, and immediately the next 3 months after we disbursed our first loan, COVID struck. That pretty much meant that to grow our book, we could not go outside our homes. And then we had to look at digital KYC solutions. At that point of time, most of the KYC providers were building their own solutions. We realized that an easiest way forward would be to build our own. So then we started investing tech, and we started looking at what are the video conferencing solutions which are compliant with the VSIP data storage and localization norms. And then we started building our own layer of VSIP protocols on top of these solutions. Over a period of time, we realized that there are 3-4 things that you'll typically want to keep in mind when you want to execute a seamless digital KYC. One is always get the customer to give you a couple of slots of time, because a lot of times the customer might be in a place where the network is not there. I was mentioning to my fellow members that I am on Jio and network is not there, right? Very likely that a customer might be facing a similar issue, and then you'll get choppy video footage or even pixelated video footage, to make sure that the customer is educated about the experience. There is a tool that can check the bandwidth, the permissions of the camera, the speaker. Most of the tools, KYC tools out there, come pre-packaged, and therefore it's not a hassle anymore. But back then, 2020, I remember the kind of issues that we had. We had to tell customers to do the KYC again because the video footage was just not acceptable as per our compliance teams. And that adds to the frustration, which pretty much means that now the customer has to do one more round of KYC, and it just keeps getting out of control. But the minute you start educating the customer that, okay, you are all set, now you can do a KYC. There are two ways. You can get immediately connected with a bank officer or an officer, or you can schedule it as per your calendar. That gives a certain self-service aspect to the customer, where he can essentially choose when he wants to do this KYC process. And then he's primed in his mind that, okay, it's going to take some time, let me do it properly. You can also give those additional requirements that you need to be in a brightly lit space, the background has to be white or off-white, okay, and things such as those. More importantly, the entire journey itself can be managed within an app or a web-based journey, without having to even directly communicate with the customer or do a telesales or do a follow-up or have the RM follow up with the customer, ki sir kar lo na, right?
Sure. Thanks, Prasad. In fact, I would say that you have brought a very good point that it has to be contextual. If your RO or RM is present right there in front of customer and then you can get the KYC done, there is a you don't want to get into a probability of customer getting frustrated by video KYC being repeated. So obviously video KYC is there there for a while now, and it is getting matured. But I think what I'm understanding from you is there is still scope of it further getting matured. So interesting. In the interest of time, I would request the entire panel, starting Mr. Kishen, to give their views in terms of what we see as the best practices being followed by your organization and overall for towards the digital onboarding process. And any cautions as well, if there are.
Sorry. In my view, this digital onboarding has been there, and I think it is now becoming a fairly matured area. Now, as far as the experiences are concerned, it keeps changing because new things are available. Most of them are driven by APIs. So what was not available in the past, today you have everything that is available, right from your CKYC data to your KYC data to your anti-money laundering solutions, to even the new one, account aggregator AA, that is the Sahmati thing, which is available today for people to access the bank accounts, provided they have their consent, or any of the other financial products they use. So all these are new innovations which have come in over the last 3 to 5 years, and I think it's phenomenal. And we are using many of these things in our organization today to make it more and more seamless. As I said, when you look at CX, it is just not the front end, but it's the entire end-to-end story that we look at. So all these things make a lot of difference. Secondly, even in the space of lending, when you look at it, whether you're integrating with NSE for stocks or with the CDSL or the depositories for the holdings, or you're talking of risk management with CRISIL or any other rating agencies, I think it's really fantastic. And I think the experiences are only going to improve. Obviously, there are risks, but the risk from a customer perspective stands reduced from an overall perspective, because you today have regulators providing their data. That means if CKYC and KYC data is provided by the regulator, the risk is reduced. If you have access to account aggregator, the issues with the bank is reduced. If you have got penny pay or penny drop solutions, the ability to identify that the correct person, the correct bank, the name of the holder is reduced. PAN and other data are available to you when you ask for it. In terms of corporates, you have all the balance sheet and other things which are available to you from a business point of view. You have data which is in case of agricultural lending and other things, you have data like SAFAL and other things which is available to you on the tap, so that you know what kind of crops can be sown, and if somebody is asking for a particular type of an agricultural loan, whether the crops will survive, what has been the history, geography of that place, the soil content. All these data today, which was not available about, let me say 10, 15 years back, today is available. So the entire thing about customer experience will keep on changing, and I see more and more things happening. The risk of that is, yes, how much of that could you be secure? Your applications can be secure, which is your own internal security. How much of that can be hacked are some of the areas that one needs to worry about. But yes, then that is, again, I like the way SEBI and RBI are moving on in terms of security. They are ensuring that you follow the right kind of security processes, whether it's an ISO 27000 or whatever, the kind of things that they do. So it's phenomenal, and I think the whole customer experience is something which is going to change drastically. And now with the new things like Bard, Copilot, and all these kind of tools that are going to make it, I just can't imagine to what levels we will be going into the next level of customer experience. Today in our organization, we are trying out Bard, we are trying out Copilot. So when we looked at these kind of things, do we really need many of the tools and templates which were being used is something we are really wondering. And whether the whole earlier process of gamification and whatever we have invested, does it make sense? So I think the whole era of customer experience in the next few years will be completely redefined from the way that we are looking at things, and with more and more things coming on the mobile, your accessibility, everything is in your palm. So that's what the whole thing is about. And you don't even need to use another hand because it's all touch. So based on all these aspects, I think the entire the CX will change. We also in our organization are looking at many of these things being redefined, including the processes, the whole transformation that we have embarked in the last 3-4 years. Many of them will be revisited, and I think it'll be a much better way of doing things is what the data protection and the DPD bill, which is there, the D square P square bill, which is there, and that's something, unless it becomes a showstopper in terms of people providing consent and other areas, I think it will be a complete transformed exercise than what we are seeing today. So the next 3, I won't say 5 years, let's talk about next 24 to 36 months. I think we'll have a completely different view on how things are going to work.
Thank you, Kishen. Prasad, any quick closing statement on the best practices?
Couple of things. One is as more and more alternative data and additional data is available for lenders, one of the things that they will have to keep strong lookout on is the required consent for getting access to that data. That is one. And second is usually when you try to craft beautiful, smooth user journeys, keeping a track of the failure points, because that's where your funnel is breaking off. People love to keep a track of the success rates, right? That my conversion rate is 10%, 12%, 2%, whatever. But then there's a whole bunch of failures that have happened. Try to address those, you will suddenly get a larger throughput.
Yes, Sandeep.
So a cue from what Prasad said, in fact, on 2 things, basically. Just touched on website, basically. So on a website, basically, a customer who is coming there is someone, a guest which you are really expecting to come down to your house, and he comes with a tag that I have 2 minutes or 3 minutes of time. And all my problems are yours, you need to solve that, basically. And you don't need that guest to go out. You will try n number of things that he stays for more time there and service him. That's the biggest challenge which any company or any organization face it as a customer experience. Basically, when he leaves your hub, he should be the most happiest person. Prasad also touched on KYC, in fact, and I really agree with him. The initial stages of KYC were really not so very easy. On the screen, it may seem, at that time, around 10 years back around, on the screen, it may seem a very good process for the consumer, but behind the screen, there was a host of people who are really operating, checking your videos were right or not, your images were right or not, and systems were not so strong. Thanks to Aadhaar and biometric, in fact, things evolved and everything came up to line. The best part over the period has happened that investors, consumers also started understanding what is the need, why is the time taken, and the time which is taken is really fruitful. It really decreased those people who are looking for a Star Trek experience, basically. They want a quick, fast, and service, in fact, and that is the consumer of the next generation. He's not looking for a superb Star Trek experience. He's looking to get his needs done fast, go out.
Sure. Thank you.
Just one silver lining, in fact, basically when companies do run or invest on digital onboardings or digital experience, basically, they do capture a lot of data. I myself am sometimes worried that wherever I have invested or transacted, those companies know more than me what I know about myself. Basically. And there will be always a silver lining, and someday the consumer is going to stand up and say, this is the left side and this is the right side. Basically, that will be so systems will be very intelligent. Companies need to be smart where we want to put in their place.
Thank you. Sudesh, a quick.
Sure. See, I have a different take. Finally, at the end of the day, digital onboarding process is not the end-all game. Mm-hmm. It's a mandatory requirement by the NBFC.
Yeah.
But for end customer, he's actually coming for a loan product, right? So it is very important to make that journey of digital onboarding extremely seamless because his intent is to get a loan at the end of the day. Digital onboarding is a compliance requirement by us, right, at the end of the day. And the fact that, as what rightly Kishen's mentioned, right, the regulator is also proactively taking steps of creating innovation. So RBI has an innovation hub, SEBI has an innovation hub. In fact, in the recent Global FinMist, right, they're talking about data making available to all of us. So data is already there. It's up to us to use the technologies. I mean, use the information in the right way. Fintechs are there, validating information, pre-filling information, improving experience. And always keep in mind, digital onboarding is just a necessary addition of a process for the end customer, right? I don't know whether you have read today's paper. Singapore has announced that you don't need passports anymore. So imagine, you don't actually technically need to carry a document because all that information about your borrower is already available. It's how to make it available to your own self using the right technology, right process, and validate that. I think in the next few years, if a country can get people into their country without a passport, right? That homeland security is so focused on getting information, analyzing it, looking at risk, using technology. I think lending is another one aspect where we need to make this whole onboarding process extremely seamless.
Absolutely. So the Digiyatra in Bangalore, the experience is wonderful, I'm sure. Sandeep.
Yeah, so as far as digital onboarding goes, people who may be at various life cycle of digital onboarding, some may start. There are few things that we just need to keep in mind. One is question the process. And that is the integral part of it. So what we need to do is transform digitally and not digitize the process. And this is where the biggest failures happen on digital onboarding processes. So question the process, try and reduce whatever you can in terms of documentation, in terms of processes, etc. Second is experiment. Experiment with new technologies. You don't even know which will succeed, which will fail, etc. Right? So as lenders, we need to experiment with new technologies, new processes, etc. to make our onboarding process more robust. Third is, in my journey till now, I've launched apps, and I've also kind of removed them. So there's a continuous improvement processes on the apps that need to, or in the process that needs to happen. So be ready to kind of, upload on the Play Store and remove it from the Play Store. So, and upload an updated version. So updates on a regular basis is the need of the hour, because the technology changes, the process change, etc., etc. I think these are three key things for me on the digital onboarding process.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sandeep. And I think it was an interesting set of views from all the panel members. I'll just take 10 seconds because we have already passed the time to say that when I was talking to my little girl a while back, I just told her that I want to create an Uber in a lending space. And she replied to me, Dad, that's stale. People talk about cognitive and they say that I want to create an Alexa. So you should create an Alexa of lending space, just speak a word and the rest of it should be done by your solution. I think, and hence the expectations are building. Onboarding journey has to be simplified. As Sudesh mentioned, that for creating volumes for rural India or rural Bharat, it is important to make it simple and efficient. Thank you very much, all the panel members.
Thank you so much, and ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for this wonderful panel session. Our first panel of the day. And now I would like to quickly call on stage Mr. Shishir Bagla, Head of Sales from Services, to kindly do the honors. So do we have Shishir here? Thank you so much, Shishir, for doing the honors. Thank you. Welcome to the stage, Shishir. We will start with our first honorable panel member, Mr. M.A.Kishen Kumar, Group CTO from us Group. A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. M.A.Kishen Kumar, and thank you so much, Mr. Kumar, for your valuable contribution in the panel session. Moving next to Mr. Prasad Ajinkya, Director of IT from Homeville Group. A big round of applause to Mr. Ajinkya for his wonderful contribution in the panel session. We move next to Mr. Sandeep Bhosle, Chief Digital Officer of Business Development from JM Financial Asset Management. A big round of applause to Mr. Bhosle for his wonderful contribution in the panel session. We move next to Mr. Sudesh Puthran, CTO from CreditAccess Grameen. A big round of applause for Mr. Puthran for his wonderful contribution in the panel session. Moving next to Mr. Sandeep Ranjan, CDO from Shriram Housing Finance. A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for Mr. Ranjan for his wonderful contribution in the panel session. And now we would like to felicitate our honorable panel moderator, Mr. Nikhil Bandi, Group Chief Technology and Digital and Operating Officer from APAC Financial Services. A big round of applause to Mr. Bandi for wonderfully moderating this panel session of experts. Very well conducted session. Would request the honorable panel members if you could kindly step forward for a group photograph. And Shishir, if you could also join them in the group photo.